une émotion pareille, elle reste. On ne peut pas s'en défaire. Et après ça, je me suis plus jamais battu.
Oui, tu sortais de ta solitude.
Oui, exactement, c'est ça. Je pense que cet amour des enfants a surmonté, m'a comblé, m'a soigné, je pense.
I'll give you an instance. A boy from America, 9. His father writes, my boy's a normal boy, but he hates lessons. The boy comes, his face is full with hate. He's a destroyer, he's a bully, he's a thief, and obviously his father didn't know what to do with him. He dumped him on us. You can't send him home. So we have to wait for years till this boy becomes social, which he does, of course, in the end. But you can't become social by punishment. Punishment never cured anybody, but I hate using the word love because it's almost a dirty word nowadays. I like Homer Lane's phrase, being on the side of the child, which I think we are. That's the only way to cure children, is to approve of them.
What was Neil's position in the school?
Of course, he was head of the school, but he tended to keep rather in the background. He did not impose himself on the school. He was always there at the meetings. He was usually there at the Saturday night dances. He did some teaching. I did part of my maths work with him as teacher. But often you might not see him for several days at a time, and he would keep in the background. So he tried to let the school get on and run without him having to impose himself.
He would often sit very quietly through the meetings, and if something was going on that he didn't like, he would just sort of gently shake his head, but he wouldn't intrude. So he was a very comforting presence, but not a forceful one. He didn't intrude into the daily life at all.
Un jour, j'entends que Neil veut me voir dans son bureau. Je tape à la porte, qui était déjà un peu entrouverte, et il me dit de rentrer. Je rentre, et puis je vois Neil assis derrière son bureau. Gentiment, il me demande de m'asseoir dans un fauteuil, face de lui. Et puis, souvent, il laissait un long silence avant de parler. Il avait sa bouche qui tombait comme ça, qui était toujours un peu humide sur les côtés. Et puis, avec son accent écossais fort, que j'arrivais à comprendre à peu près, il me dit pourquoi tu es l'enfant le plus heureux de l'école? Je dis moi. Il me dit oui, on te voit rire tout le temps, tu es toujours de bonne humeur, tu es toujours gai, tu es toujours drôle, tu es toujours au-dessus de tout. Mais il me dit en vérité, c'est pas tellement le cas. Alors moi je dis mais si, je suis très content, je suis très très heureux. Tu es heureux à l'école? Oui, je suis très heureux. Il me dit, mais la nuit, tu es aussi heureux que ça, comme ça? Je sais que tu n'es pas si heureux que ça. Et alors tout d'un coup, je me suis effondré en larmes. J'ai pleuré parce que j'ai senti que Neil savait que presque toutes les nuits, je pleurais dans mon lit. Je lui ai dit, mais comment tu sais que je pleure la nuit? Parce que je ne l'avais dit à personne. Et alors il me dit, oh ben c'est pas difficile, il me dit avec un sourire. Il me dit, c'est pas difficile, j'ai qu'à regarder ta peinture, il m'a dit. Tout d'un coup, plus tard, j'ai regardé mes tableaux, je me suis aperçu de la tragédie de ce que j'étais en train de faire. Je peignais des choses vachement tragiques. Oh. 53. Il y a une vache de violence là-dedans, hein?
Education is learning. It's from the neck upwards. You take that program, Topical Form, where you've got a lot of walking encyclopedias who know everything. By the way, I can only do 10% of the answers. And that's the popular idea of education. But education is deeper than that. Education is living. And the schools don't touch an important part of life, the emotions. They only touch the head mostly.
Tous les samedis soirs, on dansait. Et on adorait danser. C'est à Summerhill que j'ai la première fois que j'ai senti la hanche d'une femme dans ma main. Petit, en tant qu'enfant, c'est pas comme un adulte, hein, c'est pas du tout la même chose, mais enfin, on se sent très responsable, on sent qu'on a un paquebot en face de soi. Enfin, une fille, c'est quelque chose, c'est une montagne, quoi.
When I look back on Summerhill, you know, when I think of the feeling it conjures up and the ideas, the first ideas that come to my head and my overall feeling of it was just like one beautiful endless summer with, you know, just being allowed to discover the other sex, that, you know, without any interference or really, you know, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, and just grow.
I've often given the illustration that some years ago I had a boy at a meeting, by the way, who fell in love with a new girl from London. They came to me and said, "Neil, can we have a bedroom to ourselves?" And I said, "Well, I'd gladly give you one." But I daren't. "Why not? It's a free school," the girl said. I said, "Yes, but it's not a free civilization. If I gave you a bedroom to yourself, I'm sure the ministry wouldn't approve of it." And I say, "Your mother, as you know, is scared of sex. If you got pregnant, it'd be a hell of a stink about it." I said, "You can't afford contraceptives, and I daren't give you them." And I said, "But I think that people should have a sex life when they want it, but you can't do it in a school."
And this film shows me dancing in boots. This pillow fight was staged for the benefit of the film. This is supposed to represent us having a lesson, but in fact lessons were never like that. They came and shot the film, and then when they went away to develop the film, they spoilt all the negatives, and so they needed to come back and do it all again. And because they had asked us to behave in a manner which was not natural, the pillow fight and the lesson were not how Summerhill would have been, and it interrupted the running of the school. The children were rather unhappy about going through all this again. So we held a general meeting and discussed it in detail and took a vote on whether Pathé should be allowed to come back and make the film. And it was passed fairly by a narrow majority, as far as I remember. But it was passed they'd be allowed to come back, so they did.
And you voted for them to come back?
Yes, I voted for them to come back.
Almost the whole life of the school is organised around the meetings on Fridays and Saturdays, which bring together both children and adults.
Where he buys them from, because they need them, I think.
An elected chairman leads the discussions and keeps order. All the community's problems, conflicts or demands, all infringements and sanctions, and all the laws governing the life of the school are open to discussion and put to a vote. Everyone, children and adults, has one vote. If need be, a third party, known as an ombudsman, can speak on behalf of those children who desire it.
The meetings were absolutely fundamental to life at Summerhill, even though they only happened sort of once, twice a week. They coloured every moment of every day. If we saw something happening that we didn't like, some older child riding their bike in the house or doing something we felt was dangerous, like breaking a milk bottle, we could say, "Hey, stop doing that." And if the older child didn't, we could say, "Well, we'll bring you up in the meeting if you don't do that. Well, you know, I'm going to bring you up." And so this meant that every child had tremendous power.
Meeting comes to order! Shut up! Shut it!
I'm bringing up Chris for rousing you, and every time I see him, he says "Julio" or stuff like that, and I always say "stop, stop, stop." He never stops.
Look, Matthew. Yeah. First, I'm bringing you up. No. I lent Carmen my gun, and then she gave it to him, and he just threw it in the bushes or something, and he said, Good. When I told him I was bringing them up, he said good. I didn't try and look for it.
Okay, the case against Lee for Dalma. Dalma was standing in the queue for lunch. Apparently Lee just came running past and kind of jump kicked him in the stomach. And it hurt by the sounds of it.
On te demandait de prendre part et ça te forçait, ça te mettait devant toi-même à... Qu'est-ce que tu penses de cette situation? Et ça te faisait poser des questions à toi-même pour voir où était la justice.
Ollie, last night someone took Henry's bike and he found it this morning outside by the pegs, trashed generally. The back wheel was totally buckled up or something like that. The back wheel is totally knackered, really, and he's really a bit pissed off about it, obviously. Yeah, I don't know what to do about it.
Josh? Has anybody who knows what they're talking about looked at it?
Not really. I mean, maybe you could have a look at it, Josh.
Matthew? Yeah, I've seen it. The frame where the wheel's attached onto is bent. And the wheel's buckled a bit.
Okay. Roland?
Well, this is really terrible. It's like an awful thing. So he really likes riding his bike, and for somebody to break it up like that, we ought to find out who did it and see if we can find him.
Stop it.
Josh?
Yeah, there's nothing actually like substantially wrong with it. It's just been kicked about a bit, and it can be fixed in about 5 minutes. So.
Well, I sort of tried to kick the wheel back into place, and then I rode it. It just sort of went back to being buckled again.
Right.
Justin?
Well, apart from whoever did it, I propose that the community fund pays to get it mended and pays Josh to mend it straight away. If you want to do it. So. Yeah. That's not against anything else.
Right. All in favour, the community funds pays to get it mended by Josh. All against? Carried.
Tout le monde montait à bicyclette. Et à un moment, il manquait des valves pour les roues. Alors, c'est Aki qui prenait les valves sur la bicyclette de l'autre. Alors, toutes les semaines, quelqu'un arrivait, on m'a chipé les valves de ma bicyclette. Et finalement, le meeting a décidé, bon, c'est simple, on achète deux ou trois paires. Et celui qui en manque, on va le distribuer. Et comme ça sera fini, parce qu'il y en aura assez pour tout le monde. Mais ça a pris quelques semaines avant d'avoir l'idée.
I had bitten a friend of mine very badly on her arm, and there was a special meeting called about this because this was felt to be just completely out of order, too aggressive. And I can remember being sort of fearful that I was being, you know, the subject of a special meeting. But like I said before, just also very glad that the problem was being dealt with, that the community were focusing on me as a young child with a difficulty. And I can remember somebody turning to me and saying, another child saying to me, but why do you bite your best friend? And I just said, I don't know. And it really made me think, to try and think why I was doing this. And that was quite helpful. You know, it made me conscious of what I was doing. And I could feel a tremendous sense of concern from the community that I was doing this.
Okay, this is closed. Zoe?
And it really made you very conscious of trying to look for positive solutions in life and not to be condemning or just punitive. It never worked. If you just treated children like that, they would just continue with that activity. So children could see that it didn't work.
I mean, you hear children say things like, well, so-and-so did that, but he's having a bad time at the moment.